There's a big difference between children's cartoons and adult animation, but that line can get pretty blurry. Just watch some 90s Nickelodeon to see what we mean. These are some of the most infamous cartoon episodes ever aired. The 4 seasons of Batman the Animated Series are largely considered by fans to be the definitive portrayal of the Dark Knight in his universe. And true to Batman content everywhere, it got pretty unsettling at times. And while Fox Kids didn't outright ban any of its episodes, there is one the channel probably should have nixed. House and Garden sees Poison Ivy attempt to get on the straight and narrow, but it quickly takes a disturbing Cronenberg-esque turn. At first, it looks like Ivy's settled down with a professor and has stepped in to help raise his sons from a previous marriage. Unsurprisingly, that's not really what's going down. In reality, the happy husband isn't exactly happy with this arrangement, and the kids are essentially living plants spiked with his DNA. And in one particularly horrifying sequence, a new batch of squirming tots gets hatched from giant plant pods. A sight so disturbing it even shakes Batman.
Mommy.
No.
Body horror like that feels like a way better fit for the Dark Knight trilogy than a cartoon for kids. The Australian-British co-production Bluey has earned a very positive reputation. It's great at teaching kids how to be kids, and some think it's even better at teaching parents how to raise them. It's tough to imagine such a wholesome series would ever have an episode too hardcore for Disney+, its US streaming service, but Dad Baby pulled off that seemingly impossible task. In the episode, Bluey's sister Bingo finds an old baby carrier and asks her parents what it is. Her dad Bandit tries it on, and Bluey decides to make a game out of it. So Bingo hops into the carrier and Bandit pretends to be pregnant.
I'm hungry. Oh, I need to sit down. Oh, where's my vitamin E cream? Something about stretch marks.
Finally, they fashion a kiddie pool into a birthing pool, and Bandit pretends to give birth to Bingo. Aesthetically, it doesn't really feel out of place for the sweet show so many people know and love, but something about the subject matter ruffled some American feathers. Speaking with The Hollywood Reporter, creator Joe Brum explained that he often has to butt heads with networks about the subjects on his show, and used Dad Baby as a prime example. He reflected, "Eventually I would just hit these walls, and sometimes I'd say, 'Look, I can't change this is too funny.' So they don't show it in America, but Brum is very happy with the episode nonetheless." Okay, there are a lot of moments from the Ren and Stimpy Show that probably could have wound up on this list. Ren and Stimpy is one of, if not the most unhinged series to ever be aimed at kids. It sometimes feels like it was deliberately engineered to make viewers uncomfortable just to see how long they'd keep watching, and it somehow aired for 5 seasons. The 6-episode first season put the titular characters through a slew of frightening, disgusting, and outright inappropriate situations. And while many people list the episode 3 segment Space Madness as one of the more disturbing standouts, we think the season's final segment really takes the cake. Stimpy's invention sees Stimpy design a helmet that forces the perpetually cranky Ren to be happy. Unsurprisingly, this has some consequences and puts Ren's psyche through the ringer. His stress reaches a crescendo when Stimpy puts on his favorite song, Happy Happy Joy Joy, a discordant and peppy tune with some weirdly threatening lyrics.
I'll teach you to be happy. I'll teach your grandmother to suck eggs.
As the song drones on, a grinning Ren manages to free himself from the helmet and quickly attacks his friend. The whole sequence is basically several minutes of animated psychological torture, and the fact that anyone would air it on Nickelodeon is pretty mind-boggling. The Disney-produced ABC series Gargoyles was never afraid to feature mature themes. Centering on a group of stone gargoyles that come to life to protect the streets of New York City at night, the series was famous for its morally ambiguous villains and tackled some very heavy issues like racism and inner-city violence. The Season 1 episode Deadly Force got particularly dark and confronted the issue of gun violence. The episode sees Broadway playing with his police officer friend Elisa's loaded gun, but that play turns deadly serious when he accidentally shoots her. The original version of the episode only aired once, probably because it showed Elisa lying in a pool of blood. After it went out, the animators performed a quick hack job on the episode to take that disturbing image out. The cleaned-up version subsequently aired on cable channels like Disney XD, and another version showing the bloodstain actually resurfaced and streamed on Disney Plus for a while. With gun violence being such a hot-button issue these days, the fact that the episode is still streaming at all is a pretty big surprise.
I'll never touch a gun again.
For as long as it's been on the air, Seth MacFarlane's Family Guy might be the only cartoon that has pushed the boundaries of good taste nearly as far as South Park. More than one episode of the series has come under fire from censors, but only one has really upset fans in a big way. And, funny enough, it wasn't an inappropriate joke that got fans upset about Season 12's Life of Brian. In the episode, the sarcastic pseudo-intellectual family dog Brian is struck by a car and dies, and the whole sequence is played totally straight.
You've given me a wonderful life. I love you all.
And while many shell-shocked viewers expected his fate to be reversed by the end of the episode, the show actually replaced Brian with a new dog named Vinny instead. And to cement that Brian's death wasn't just a one-off, Vinny was still around in the next episode, and even replaced Brian in the opening credits sequence. The uproar from fans was so loud and immediate that a Change.org petition actually went up demanding Brian's return. Luckily, those fans didn't have to wait long. Just 2 episodes after Life of Brian, Stewie uses his trusty time machine to go back and prevent Brian's death. It turns out that this had been the plan all along, but the showrunners couldn't have been happier with the response. Addressing the backlash, McFarlane once said, "We were all very surprised, in a good way, that people still cared about that character to be that angry. We thought it would maybe create a little bit of a stir, but the rage was not something we counted on." In 1997, both the Pokémon game and show were still pretty new to the world. The anime series was still in its first season and had only aired in Japan, so it was a little early to get some bad press, but that's exactly what went down. In the episode Electric Warrior Porygon, aspiring Pokémon master Ash Ketchum and his companions are sent into cyberspace to deal with a rogue Porygon, a digital Pokémon wreaking havoc on the Pokéball transfer system. It turns out Team Rocket is behind the technical issues and a battle begins. During the fight, virtual missiles get launched that cause several digital explosions that trigger a rapidly flickering red and blue strobe effect. Back in the late 90s, we didn't understand the dangers of strobing lights the way we do now, and Pokémon viewers felt the consequences. The episode was watched by more than 4 million kids and induced seizures in hundreds of them. Pokémon was pulled from the airwaves for months while authorities figured out what caused the mass seizures, and the episode was never broadcast again. In response, a new set of standards for animation production in Japan were established, and a warning began airing in front of virtually all anime series, instructing viewers to watch in a well-lit room at a safe distance from the TV. And while the episode caused a lot of fear when it first came out, it's now the stuff of legend in the Pokémon fandom. Cartoon Network's Cow and Chicken only ran from 1997 to 1999, but it still left its mark on 90s animation. Like many shows from that era of Cartoon Network, Cow and Chicken's animation style was bizarre and surreal, and the show had a penchant for gross, sarcastic, and even suggestive humor. The show saw the title characters, who were somehow siblings, go on crazy adventures that were almost always interrupted by the villainous Red Guy. The Red Guy bore a strange resemblance to Satan, and one episode really leans into that.
I love evilness. I hate goodness.
In the pilot episode No Smoking, Chicken refuses to play with Cow, so Cow finds Chicken's ashtray full of cigarette butts and threatens to tell their parents if he doesn't play with her. Now that was already a pretty big stretch for a kid's show at the time, but things get even weirder when the Red Guy shows up. He convinces Chicken that he has more cigarettes for him, and so Chicken follows the Red Guy to what sure looks like the depths of hell. Unsurprisingly, the episode was quickly banned by Cartoon Network. It turns out pro-smoking messages and weirdly religious imagery just weren't right for the channel.
You beat the devil. You saved my life.
The Fairly OddParents protagonist Timmy Turner never had it easy. Between his borderline neglectful parents, his sadistic babysitter Vicky, his school bully Francis, and his paranoid teacher Mr. Crocker, no one could have needed a set of fairy godparents more. And though they mean well, the pair he wound up with, Cosmo and Wanda, aren't always the most helpful. In fact, the wishes they grant Timmy often only make things worse. But things took a dark turn in the Season 5 episode It's a Wishful Life. Taking inspiration from the classic film It's a Wonderful Life, Timmy gets a glimpse into what the world would be like without him after he wishes he was never born. And while It's a Wonderful Life shows how hard people's lives are without the protagonist, Timmy sees the exact opposite. In his absence, the lives of everyone in his orbit are actually kinda rad. His parents are rich, Mr. Crocker is a respected professor, and Francis turns out to be a pretty nice guy. And while that concept might work in a more adult comedy, the message it sent its audience of kids wasn't very well received.
Without you, he had to find a different outlet for his bullying.
It turns out teaching kids not to stand up for themselves and to just assume everyone's better off without them is frowned upon in popular media. It's hard to imagine any episode of a sweet kid series like Peppa Pig being yanked from the airwaves, but it turns out she can get more controversial than we realized. The episode in question was called Mr. Skinny Legs, which featured a scene where Peppa's dad comforts her after her brother puts a spider in her room.
No need to be afraid, Peppa. Spiders are very, very small, and they can't hurt you.
And while that seemed like sound advice in Britain, where the show's produced, the issue is that Peppa Pig also has a pretty big Australian following, and the land down under has quite a few animals that can very much hurt children. including a few very unfriendly arachnid species. ABC swiftly pulled the episode from its rotation, but Australian parents continued complaining after it aired again on Nick Jr. Of course, the spider didn't look very real, and the show was about talking animals, so it's not like its basis in reality is particularly strong to begin with. So Nick Jr. pushed back on the complaints, but eventually gave in and pulled the episode when the debate caught media attention. The writers of Spongebob Squarepants have always thought outside the box, and the show regularly goes to some weird places. Even so, the series has only had one episode removed from the rotation completely, and it's pretty easy to see why. In the Season 3 episode Midlife Crustacean, Mr. Krabs finds himself getting a little down about his age. To cheer him up, SpongeBob and Patrick decide to bring him out on the town to relive his youth, but things get weird when the night starts to wind down and Mr. Krabs wants to go home.
I guess you're gonna miss the panty raid.
And true to their word, SpongeBob and Patrick convince Mr. Krabs to break into a woman's house and steal her underwear. And if you're starting to think that doesn't sound appropriate for kids, we couldn't agree more. To make matters even worse, the target of the raid turns out to be Mr. Krabs' elderly mother. She promptly grounds her adult son, which at least makes him feel like a kid again. Amazingly, the episode aired in 2003 but wasn't pulled until 2018. That means that for 15 full years, there were legions of confused parents having to avoid explaining to their children exactly what a panty raid was.